Here is another way that you can design layout and figure out the amount of bricks you're going to need for a stairway you're going to build out of bricks. And what I would suggest doing would be to figure out the size of the stairway. Lay out the stair stringer on a sheet of plywood, or lay out the design of the stairway you're planning on building. A stairway that's going to have the exact measurements you need for the treads and the risers. And if you need more information about that, feel free to share it with us in the comment area. And I'll be glad to show you how you can lay out something like this with very little effort. Next, you're going to want to place the bricks in the position that you think they're going to work best. And make sure that you adjust for the brick grout lines, the mortar that will be placed in between the bricks. And you could always do this by cutting some scrap pieces of plywood. For example, if your grout line is going to be 3/8 of an inch, then grab some 3/8 plywood, cut it into scrap pieces to find if you're going to have any problem areas, like right here, an area where you're going to need to cut the bricks. And basically what you're going to try to do will be to eliminate as much cuts as you possibly can, or change the dimensions of the stairway if possible. And here you can see when we set our next layer or our next rows into position, we're not lining up with the top of our tread. This corner isn't working out here. And in order to make it work, we're going to need to cut this brick here and this brick here. We might not need to cut this brick or install this brick or these bricks here, depending upon whether or not we're going to fill that area with mortar or concrete. Because most brick stairways fill all of the areas they can possibly fill without installing a brick in there to save money, or if it's going to work better for your project. Obviously, you're not going to want to cut any more bricks than you have to. So here's one example of something you can do. Another example that might work would be to change the direction of the bricks. However, you can still see where we're cutting this brick and this brick. And I'm not about to suggest you're going to need to use a full brick here. You could cut this brick in half. You could cut it into thirds. All you need is the front of it. And the same over here. So again, I'm just kind of throwing out some ideas for something that might work on your project. Now with this thing right here, all we need to do to make it work would be to simply make this step a little bit longer. However, if that won't work for your project, you're not going to be able to do it. And of course, here's an example of what the pattern would look like if you're having a difficult time figuring out what the steps and risers would look like on the stairway. Next up, let's go ahead and show you what I'm talking about here. This step is this length here. We're using this, and if we use it, we're going to need to cut a few more bricks. However, that won't be the case if we make the step just a little bit longer, or in your example, maybe a little bit shorter. And this is actually how most stairways are built out of brick. The bricks basically dictate the length or depth of the stair tread, and could be an excellent way for you to figure out how to only cut a few bricks. If we use this example here, we will be able to eliminate this row of bricks here, like we did down here, and only cut the bottom row of bricks, and hopefully no more bricks, but you might need to cut some bricks at the top depending upon how it's going to work out. And if you are going to change the depth of the steps, make sure that you adjust it on your pattern, because you can use this pattern here when building your stairway. Just simply drive some stakes into the ground, firmly secure the sheet of plywood, or cut out the stairway design that you're going to use, and then firmly secure that to the ground to make sure that it is plumb, all of your steps are level, and that all of the riser heights are the same. I think this is an excellent way to build a set of stairs for anyone who doesn't know a lot about working with bricks. And of course, the method that most masons are going to use, and that would simply be to cut this row of bricks if the step needs to be a specific depth. And the riser height won't allow you to use full bricks here. And don't forget to allow for the grout joint in the back here, maybe 3/8 of an inch. And this method here will allow you to change the riser heights You're just simply going to be able to lower the entire step. For example, if I want to lower this 1/2 of an inch, it's just going to lower into this area here. 1 more inch, lower into the area. So the good news is I won't need to cut this row of bricks, but I will need to cut this row of bricks. And I'm not about to suggest you're going to be able to get away from cutting any bricks to build a stairway that will need to meet specific measurements for the risers and the treads. And the last thing I want to point out in the video is don't forget that you can always change the direction of the bricks here, especially if you're interested in reducing the amount of joints. You can see here where we have a lot more joints in here, and this actually looks better in my opinion. So there you have it. If you've never built a stairway out of bricks, something like this could be exactly what you need to lay out the stairway. See if it's going to work, and see how many cuts you're going to need to make before you even lay your first brick.